Hey, what's up everybody? This is Jose from Southern Life, and on today's video, we're going to be talking about why housing has become so expensive, and I'm going to give you a perspective you probably haven't even heard yet. And let me give you guys a disclaimer. I'm not an economist. This is just my personal opinion. Since 2011, the supply of homes in the United States has gotten smaller. However, in the same period, during the presidency of Barack Obama, 3.2 million people were deported. Donald Trump's presidency, an uncounted number of undocumented migrant workers voluntarily left the country. They knew that the sentiments towards undocumented workers had changed in the United States, and they decided to leave voluntarily. If you don't have people to build these houses, you're not going to have houses, and they're going to be expensive. So even though we may have the materials, the land, the buyers, the money, everything ready to go, if there's nobody here to build those houses, the prices will continue to be higher than we would want to pay. Well, couldn't we just allow people to come here and start building houses? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. When the immigrants first left, it actually helped open up vacancy and lower real estate prices in some areas. It was only the prolonged long-term effects of these people being gone that really made the real estate prices go up, since now there's nobody to build the houses, at least affordably. And just like when they left, initially it lowered prices and then they rose, the same thing would happen vice versa. If a large influx of people were to come into the country to work building houses, that would just drive prices up even higher, at least for a brief period. The same exact thing that is happening in the real estate world is happening in the labor force, where now there are more jobs available than there are people willing to work, predominantly in the food industry and in construction, which were the two largest categories that the undocumented migrant workers were initially substituting with their labor, since these are areas that most people who have documents are not willing to take these jobs. That lower income housing will also be desirable in the future once this construction boom takes place. Both developers, investors, and many others are waiting to line their pockets from the profits that will be made in that continual increase of prices that is unavoidably going to have to take place before we can actually have more houses and people again. I kind of knew this would happen many years ago. Towards 2016, me and my wife started to build a house. We had assembled a team of about 10 people who were going to help us build this house. We had people that were going to help us with the electrical, the plumbing, the framing, and a few other things that we had to do. Out of the 10 people that we had assembled for our house project, 0 of them were actually able to work on the project because they all voluntarily returned to their home country. Replacing these people that were going to help us was not an easy task. The people that we found to replace them were not as skilled, not as willing to work, wanted to get paid much more. They also were less reliable and less willing to cooperate with the project. What we thought was going to be a 3 to 4 month project turned into a 1.5-year project, as we could not find anyone willing to work on our project for us. Meanwhile, many of the people that we did find willing to work, they were no longer interested in working for the middle class person, because they would rather go work for much larger projects for wealthy people. Seeing this process take place opened up our eyes that we needed to move somewhere more affordable, where we could get more bang for our buck in real estate, understanding that the housing market had changed for the long haul. And we bought a house in Montgomery, Alabama for $65,000. I could probably get almost $100,000 more than that for the home right now. However, I asked myself, how much money would it cost to duplicate the house that I have right now if I had to build it from scratch, buying the land and building the home? A whole lot more than $160,000. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to sell the property. We also looked at what we wanted to do with our future, and it makes sense that a bunch of other people want to do exactly the same thing we're thinking about doing, which is to have a second home, something that many years ago would have been impossible. We were looking at homes in Michigan that would have been $50,000 4 or 5 years ago. Now those houses are $200,000. The more we waited, the less options we had, and the less we had to settle for. And they're holding on to their money, thinking that if they wait, there's going to be a crash. We don't know that. I do know this, that today people are a whole lot smarter than they were in the past, especially people my age. 2008, we're 18 years old. We're both getting laid off. We can't find work. So people my age who went through all that, it's very difficult for us to comprehend that we're going to put ourselves in a position where that could happen to us again. I think people today are a whole lot smarter. People are less likely to take risk. They make smarter decisions. They get into less debt. And I really wonder how somebody with $300,000, $500,000 cash could have the notion that they're just going to wait for a better opportunity. You can buy so much of a house, unrealistic expectations. Instead of being happy that they have $500,000 cash to buy a home, something that some people would never be able to obtain, they're not happy with that. They want to hold out and get an even bigger deal. And these are the people who are not being satisfied with what their money can do today, are probably going to have a huge disappointment when they find out that in the future it's probably going to get even harder to do the same thing with the money they had, and they wish they had made their decisions quicker. Again, I'm not an economist, but I think anybody hoarding money right now is making a horrible decision. It's been known by a lot of economists, people like Grant Cardone, Dave Ramsey. They all kind of correlate on the idea that perhaps holding on to cash money right now is probably the dumbest thing you could do. The same thing can be said about investments like stocks, Bitcoin, IRAs, and any other type of investment that isn't really a thing you can hold in front of you right now today. Buy a home where you want to live, where you are happy. I always wanted to be in Alabama. I never liked Naples. Crowds of tourists and people on top of each other. I wanted to be where I am now, in the middle of the woods, away from people. Each one of us, we know where we really want to live. Some of us want to live on the beach. Some of us want to live on a mountain. Some of us want to live in the middle of nowhere on a mountain full of snow. Why are you waiting for retirement to live where you want to live? You're living right now. Forget about where you're going to be 20 years from now. You're alive right now. You're living life right at this moment. If you pay $20 million for a house right now and tomorrow it's not worth anything, it doesn't matter what the crap you paid for it. You bought it because it's what you wanted. When you buy a house as an investment and you leverage yourself into this house, you didn't even buy a house in a place that you wanted. You bought a house in a place that you thought would make you more money. Nothing that you did was what you wanted. You did what society wanted you to do. You know where you want to live. You know where you want to be. You know what type of house you want. If you pay $500,000 for a house and it's the house you want, it doesn't matter how much you paid for it. That's what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Look, I hated my life in Naples, Florida for the last few years I was there. There was a time when it was amazing, especially growing up. But I hated like the last few years that I spent down there, and I was going to plan on staying down there for like a few more years because I thought I was going to make more money there because that's what everybody told me I was going to do. Now I live where I wanted to live, in the house I want to live in. I feel like I'm free and liberated because I pretty much care two craps about what everybody else thinks. And on top of that, even though it didn't make sense to me, statistically it didn't make sense, somehow I'm making more money now living my dream than I did working like a slave in a miserable situation that I was forcing myself to be in, not because I wanted to be there, but because other people were telling me this is what you need to do. You're going to be successful anywhere you go. Not because the place is going to be better, it's because you're happy where you are and you're going to make it work because that's what you want for yourself. It's not the place that's going to make you, it's your attitude to be successful and make it work because that's what you chose for yourself. It's not the place that's going to make you, it's the fact that you want it to work out because that's what you want. And that's what a lot of people are failing to do. They're not going where they want to do. They're not following what they want to do. They're not following their dreams. They're following the mold that society wants them to fit. And it doesn't matter how successful you are, how much money you make, how good your investments turn out. If you're not happy, it ain't worth it. I'm working hard where I'm at now. I love it. I like it here. If tomorrow I don't like it, I'll sell this and move somewhere else and keep doing it over and over again to make sure that I'm happy with wherever I'm at in life. And while I think that real estate is better than stocks and IRAs, I don't think if everybody gets into real estate, it's going to be as successful in the future as it was in the past. What made real estate good in the past was that nobody cared for it. If now everybody cares about real estate, then real estate is going to become the same exact thing that the stock market became, that the IRAs became, that everything else became. What makes real estate special is that nobody cared for it. Now if everybody wants to get in on real estate, then guess what? Now real estate isn't going to be what it used to be, because now there's too much competition for it. Therefore, even that isn't an incredible investment. Just do whatever makes you happy and take care of yourself, invest in yourself, and don't put so much emphasis on where your investments are going to go in the future. Just live for the moment and enjoy life, and your happiness will ultimately mean greater growth for your economy, because whatever the crap you're doing with a good attitude and you're happy with what you're doing. Alright, that's today's video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe and donate $1 million to my channel.